Hello and welcome to the premiere episode of Arsenal Above All. What we are basically here to do is just chat about the club that we love with people that we respect and like to get their opinions from. So what the episode is about today is going to be about the season so far, what we think of the season so far, also the fixture congestion, how's that going to affect Mikel Arteta going forward, and also the forthcoming fixture against Brentford, which has been slightly rearranged, obviously with all the issues that we've had over the last week in the UK. But we begin tonight with paying our respects to Her Majesty. Obviously, devastating news to a lot of people. It's affected a lot of people. And we'd just like to pass our condolences on to her family, and to anyone else who has had to go through it of this last week. It's been a very surreal few years in this country, and it just seems to be continuing. But hopefully, with the return of football and the return of life, normal life, hopefully things will get better. So rest in peace, Your Majesty. So we're going to go back and recap on the FC Zurich fixture. And to help me is my good man, my good friend, Neil Shah. How you doing, my friend?
Oh, I'm very well. Thank you, Michael. And thank you for that amazing intro. Really well. Very, very nice intro that you had there. And respects to you for the little tribute and courtesy to the Queen. It's devastating news for us all. And it is surreal. It's a bizarre feeling. But I want to say thank you so much for having me on your inaugural show. I'm absolutely chuffed and honoured and blessed, and all the superlatives on that one. I'm honoured to be in. I can't wait for it to kick off and get into it. So yeah, thank you for having me on, and let's do this.
No, it's a pleasure to have you on, mate. No, I appreciate that. Obviously, we linked up via the Purely Arsenal podcast, and shout out to Jack and James and Anthony on that. But yeah, this is just something else, to add to the Arsenal content. Nothing, no rivalry or anything like that.
No.
Just people again just having a chat about the club that we love. So, we'll kick off with the FC Zurich game. Obviously, it seemed like it was a lifetime ago. Obviously, with what's happened in the last couple of days, winning 2-1. Obviously, Marquinhos having a good performance. What was your initial takes on the actual game and the actual performances of the players that took part?
I thought they did very well, Michael. I have to say, it was a difficult one because it was our first loss. We were on the back of our first loss. I wasn't sure how that was going to affect the squad. I mean, I know there was changes and we got different players, etc. But at the end of the day, we are. I want to see us as one organism working towards one goal. So of course, if you basically take even a change of squad and bring in some of the fringe players to give them a chance, in theory, the way I see it is it's still relevant to say that are they going to be able to come back from a defeat, which hurt. It did hurt because we were pretty good in that game against Man U. I thought we controlled 70% of that game. I think we were on top for a big 2/3 of it, I would say. And it's just a couple of lapses in defence which cost us the points. So it was interesting to see how they would have responded to that. And to be honest, I was impressed. I mean, it was a tough one because obviously then during the game the announcement was made of the Queen. So I think I'll be honest with you, my focus did go a little bit from the game, but from what I saw, I thought all the boys did very well, and I'm absolutely chuffed to bits. And I know you'll mention them too, with Nketiah, Marquinhos, obviously, and Vieira. I thought they were outstanding. Vieira and Marquinhos, their first games, and I thought they were brilliant. Again, we all know that it's difficult for when a new player, especially from overseas, comes to the club.
Yeah.
For them to adjust, how long does it take them to adjust and kind of acclimatise to their teammates, to the way we play, etc. But they look good. Obviously, Vieira had a little stint, I think, in the Man U game. Have I got that right? For a while?
He did. Yeah,
and he looked impressive even there.
Cameo, yeah.
So straight away in his debut there, he looked great. And but Marquinhos, 1 assist and 1 goal in the debut. Has that happened before?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Incredible. And it's nice that both him and himself and Eddie really chuffed for him, because, to be honest, he's signed his contract. He's obviously up against Jesus in some ways. I think there'll be some circumstances where they will be able to play both, together. Arteta will position it so that they can both start together. But ultimately, he is going to be a substitute for Jesus most of the time, I think. Anyway, it could change. But every time he's come on, he's looked different. He looks bigger. He looks stronger. He looks more up for it. He's pacier. And his movement off the ball, everything seems to have changed. Everything we wanted to see in him seems to have occurred. And I think by him deciding to stay with the club and pledge his future to Arsenal, I think he's basically made up his mind. Said, this is the club I want to be successful at.
Yeah.
And I just feel that what I saw, it was a culmination of what we were seeing in his substitute appearances in the first 6 games.
Yeah.
For him to also assist and get a goal. So pleased. I was so pleased for them both. I'm glad. I know we had a bit of a lapse and Zurich scored a goal, but end of the day, we got the job done. And it was a great way to come back after that defeat.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that was the thing that everyone was talking about. We've had such a little spell of 3 or 4 games where we just have a little funk, where we lose a game, when we go 2 or 3 games where we drop points and then we pick things up again. The only thing I was sort of worried about was the fact that he brought on Odegaard, Saka, and on quite late, and Zinchenko. One, it seemed to put Tierney's nose out of joint a little bit. He didn't look really happy at all coming off. But I'm thinking the last 15, 20 minutes when they came on, it was almost like, okay, I can maybe see what you want to do. You want to try and gain control of the game a little bit. And we did for a spell, but then it was just all frenetic at the end. It was just chaotic. And then he brought Jesus on, and he was not his normal self, 100 miles an hour, putting everything in. You're thinking, Christ, it'd be just like him to get an injury. He just come on, in this sort of game where we didn't really need to put him on. Is that a worry for you? Because obviously we go into, the fixture situation and just how things are at the moment with obviously the games being called off and everything. We know Arteta would have had, a structure in place in terms of rotation and who he would have put in and who would have taken out. But is it a worry that because he's made those substitutions, he's brought those guys on? Do you think he trusts the squad still, or does he need to learn to trust the squad? Or because of the situation, has he got no choice to do that now? He has to just crack on and put people in.
I saw it 2 ways. When during the match itself, I was a bit confused. I thought, why he didn't need to make so many substitutes. I didn't understand it, and thought that's very odd. And I'm so glad you touched on the Tierney thing, because you're spot on about that. That's so true. And I want Tierney to succeed at this club as well. I think he is a great player. I think if he could develops and tweaks his style just a little bit, because a lot of people do accuse him of being a very flat, 2-dimensional kind of player. But I think I have seen snippets of him in the past where he can do things slightly differently. I remember that goal in the snow he scored. Do you remember that, where he cut inside and
against West Brom?
Yeah. He's capable. He's more than capable of doing things like that. And I think the boss needs to be right behind him. If he's not going to be selected for Premiership games, especially if Partey comes back, then I can see Zinchenko going back into his Tierney's position, and then again he's out, isn't he? So I think where he does get opportunities, I think Arteta's got to back him, 100%. But then I thought about it, and then I thought maybe the other thing he's doing is, for a lot of these players, it was their first run out, and maybe he didn't want to risk anything, anyone pulling up or sustaining an injury just because they weren't going to be good for 90 minutes. But then there's another side to the coin of that. They're professional players. They should be ready, Michael. Yeah. They should be ready. So it is a bit of a concern, because obviously, as you mentioned, we've got this massive congestion, nightmare. I don't think I've ever experienced. Well, I don't think any of the clubs have experienced will experience anything like it, because it's obviously tying in with the World Cup as well, which is delayed. It's later in the year, which is very unusual. There's a lot of strange things happening this season. And it just happens to be our luck that it's the season that we've started so well, isn't it? It's just our dumb luck that something always seems to, a spanner seems to be thrown in the works. So let's get, if we can't get Arsenal because of the way they're playing so well, let's do it another way. You know, it's fate, and it's awful. But I think, and that's where I'm a little bit concerned that we didn't get maybe that extra player in at the end of the transfer window. And I am a bit concerned, but at the same time, Michael, you know me, I'll try and be as positive as I can. Because the performances I've seen from Marquinhos and Vera, it's almost like two players we didn't know we were going to have. And so that kind of allays my fears just a tad. But that's the way I see it. That's how I see it.
I mean, with the fixture situation, I think Guardiola was coming out today. I think he said in his press conference about he's not sure if the game against, our game against them is going to take place in October. Because we've got 6 games to come, and they're the 7th one. So apparently that's where they're going to try and fit that game in against PSV, because there's stuff like floating around. They tried to arrange it to be played behind closed doors. Apparently UEFA said no, and obviously people say, well, why don't you switch venues? It's hard to do that logistically with what you need to sort out, travel and staff and all that stuff. Hotels, all things like that. But I mean, I'm a bit concerned, because if something happens where we have to forfeit, we can't afford to forfeit the game, can we? Because with the stakes as it is in the Europa League this year, where the top team qualifies and gets effectively a bye for the next round, past the next round, so you avoid the teams that drop down from the Champions League. This is huge. I mean, last season when it happened to Tottenham, when they had to forfeit, that was because, quote unquote, they had a COVID outbreak in their squad, which, quote unquote, took out a lot of their squad, and they couldn't fit, 11 or 12 players. This has got nothing to do with us. This has been, because of the exceptional circumstances and policing situation. Everyone, and it seems to be, coming into London over the next couple of days. It's just going to be crazy. I don't understand how they could even be discussing the forfeit situation when it's out of the club's hands. It's something that's not been of our doing, sort of thing. Whereas with the Tottenham situation, they can say, well, all right, well, you didn't manage the situation properly because you haven't done the testing properly, or whatever it is, or the social distancing to ensure that you could provide a match day squad. So I mean, are you I imagine you're worried like me, Neil, in terms of any type of forfeit.
Of course. I mean, we can't afford it. I mean, we not just for the sake of potentially losing out on that top spot that you just mentioned. It's also about momentum. And if we're doing well, and obviously then the game's forfeit, and it can break momentum. I think we're at a stage now where the players look so much hungrier than I've ever seen them for years. There's a togetherness about the squad. And I have said this before in previous seasons, and then it's all fallen apart. So, you never know. But I just see something very different. And then if we get something where we're doing, well, it could be both ways. We could be doing not so well, and then the game gets forfeited with it. Just compounds to the anguish to the club, and the stress. It just stresses everyone out. It's like, hang on a minute, Jesus. Or we could be doing very well, and then all of a sudden that momentum is broken because the game is forfeited. It worries the hell out of me. Of course it does. Yeah. Well, why should we suffer, as you quite rightly said, for something which is completely out of our control? That's just not right. But I am really concerned about how they're going to manage all these fixtures. It's frightening to think about how they're going to do it. I'm so glad at least can you imagine if even the Brentford game didn't go ahead? That would have been another one to add. At least that's going ahead. And I'm glad about it for more than just that reason. I'm glad because can you imagine if that didn't go ahead, we would have faced Spurs in theory straight after Man U. And God forbid if we had dropped points against them, and then everyone would be saying, yeah, look at them. They were going on about 5 wins in a row. And then as soon as they get up against some stiffer competition, they lose or, drop points against 2 games, running. So I'm actually glad for that reason. We must get the result against Brentford. And I think that will put us in better stead for the Tottenham game. Sorry I've gone ahead a bit there, but
that's
I'm
fine.
concerned. I am
we're just looking at the fixtures are at the bottom. It's just a bit like you said, it's just crazy how things have been allowed to happen. First of all, how they managed to have structure 9 games in October in 1 month. 2 games a week. It's just insane. So that's why I'm sort of, Arteta won't have any opportunity. He won't have any choice. He will have to completely rotate the squad, maybe taking about. Whereas he probably thought, like he did against Zurich, he took 4 or 5 players out, didn't he? Or 4 players out of the main team. 5 players out. He's going to have to do more, go against that, because we know people are going to pick up injuries more than anything. We know what it's like. So that's the worry for me. It's just his hand is going to be forced a little bit, and then that taps into, like you said before, the lack of bodies that we didn't get in. I would have loved 2 more players in. But it seems like we only managed to really focus on 1, and it was a bit of a last minute job. But yeah, I'm just a bit. That's the worry, that we've got into a good position, and they didn't kind of foresee the fixtures anyway being like that. But
no.
Especially, they knew that October was really going to be massive, and obviously what's happened last week has compounded that. But no, I watching the documentary, you can see the team that they've got behind them. So I imagine that they'll be working at the maximum of their powers. The physios and Carlos, the development guy, getting people's heads and getting them positive and getting them ready to play the game.
He's 27, isn't he? He's so young.
He's really young kid. But no, it just shows. That opened up my eyes a bit in terms of these guys are human and they just want to get the best out of the squad that's there. So yeah, thanks for that, Neil. That's a good start. We should have a quick break, and after that, we're just going to talk about Brentford and trying to settle some scores after what they did to us last season. Right, so we face Brentford on Sunday. We have our friend Ivan Toney, who likes to tweet a little bit after games and everything. We know Arteta used that as a bit of incentive to get the boys at them. We turned them over last season, but it was a little bit hairy. It was 2-1. It should have been more than that. Neil, he banged a hat-trick in the last round of matches. You looking forward to this game? I won't ask you for prediction because I know what you're going to say. But what's your thoughts of the game? And who would you say is the Arsenal player that you think is going to be the game changer or the match winner for us, and the player that we maybe should keep an eye on, maybe a bit concerned about? We want to hopefully give them positive vibes, get their form up.
Okay. Yeah. Great questions. Thank you. Yes, 100% looking forward to it. I'm this season. I've been looking forward to every single game. A feeling that I've not had for a very, very long time. I'm thrilled, as I said earlier. And sorry, I jumped ahead there. That I'm looking forward to it on the Sunday, because I think if we can get that under our belts, we'll be in a better position for Tottenham. I'm sure of it. I'm so sure of that. So I feel the players that obviously will be amazing as always is going to be the Jesus, and Saliba is my slight worry. And you might be surprised at me saying this, only because of what happened at Man U. And I don't want to start putting blame or, pointing fingers at any of the defence in that respect. But I think it was defence lapses, just maybe a bit of complacency, maybe a bit of naivety, which cost us a couple of those goals.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say it's concern for Saliba. Maybe it's more about I want to see how he responds.
Yeah,
I'd like to see how he responds, because he's been the talking point. Everyone talks about Zinchenko and Jesus and those 2 new players up front and how well they're doing, and obviously Martinelli's been blinding recently. Yeah. But I'd just like to focus a little bit on the back. Now, Saliba has got so many of the good feedback. He's been lauded so much, and rightly so, because he's been absolutely amazing. And that was his first taste of defeat with Arsenal. And I'd like to see how he responds and how. So I'll be kind of looking at him. But yeah, I I think I know who you're going to speak about in terms of a good way, and who you're looking forward to. So I won't steal the thunder there. I'm going to say Martinelli again, because the boy has really impressed me, and his work rate. I don't know about you, Michael, but I feel every game I see him at, he's getting better. He was outstanding at Man U. You can't say that the players played rubbish, because I thought, as I said, we probably were better for 2/3 of that game.
Yeah.
It's just unfortunate the way it went. But, I mean, look at the goal he scored. I mean, all right, it was disallowed. But look at the way he took that goal. I mean, it was a great pass. Yeah, brilliant. But he finished it. It was so strong, so fast. And I think we're going to see more of that. Yeah. And so for me, I'm excited about Martinelli on Sunday, and the player to obviously be a little bit, maybe just keep my eyes on is Saliba. And I'll be interested to see. Depends on if Partey's going to come back. Yeah. But because of the way Marquinhos, I don't think Marquinhos will play, but I wonder if Vieira will. It's quite, and maybe he might rest Saka. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see that, or maybe they'll both get a bit part in the game. That'd be interesting.
Do you think Partey will come straight back in? Would you put him straight back in?
Oh God, that's such a tough one. I mean, Brentford, they're Brentford, aren't they?
The thing with Brentford, they're very streetwise, I would say. Yeah. Their midfield are very, they're technically very good. A lot of Danish players in there, and very streetwise. So I would worry maybe a bit about Sam being there, being amongst that. Obviously, Jack has been immense so far this season, but just maybe a bit concerned. But then again, with Partey being out for as long as he has been, would you chuck him in, or would you?
Oh God, that was such a difficult one. Oh God. All right, I'm going to go on a limb and say yes. Hopefully, we'll win the game by half time, and then we can take him off.
What, 4-5?
I'm not going to say. You told me not to. No. Look, I'm going to be respectful. Brentford's a tough. They're a tough ground for us. We seem to have, from the very first defeat. Obviously, that was hurt all of us. Forget the fact that we had COVID issues, but no one mentions that, do they? No. But it was a defeat, and I think we're always going to be that will be the back of the team's mind, maybe. So I'll pay them respect. I think it's going to be a bit of a toughie. I think it's not going to be as straightforward as I like to always seem to think they're going to be. So I even if you did ask my prediction, I won't go that bold.
Yeah, it's going to be close. It's going to be a very, very tight game. They're a good side. They're well coached. I'd say will be an odd goal in it, 2-1 or something like that. I think the player that I think is going to be key for us, and maybe the difference is going to be Jesus or Saka. I mean, Saka definitely returned to form at Old Trafford. He was like proper on it. He had really good battle with their left back, I think he hopefully will continue that. But I'd worry defensively as well is Gabriel, because I know I've mentioned it a while ago, and James mentioned it as well, is Gabriel and how he reacts to being up against someone who's a bit big, physical guy, and we saw what Tony did to Ben White last season, so might be a little bit different up against Saliba. He's looking at, he's got two big guys up against his time. So that's the worry with Gabriel. Just if he can just be calm and just play the game in front of him, and not trying to get into wrestling matches or fights with him, because Tony's very clever. He's been around the block. He's played at lower leagues and everything. And the guy, he's a good forward. And I think he's good chance of him getting called up to the England squad. But I think Jesus and Saka are going to be the match winners for us on Sunday, hopefully. So what I'll finish off with, Neil, is just how you feel the season so far, and how obviously the 5 games, and and everything, and how things went from there, and what's your thoughts, and obviously what are your aspirations going forward.
Okay. I mean, I would have loved to have come on here and said 6 of the best, but unfortunately that didn't happen. So I'd say 5.7 because we controlled 70% of that Man United game. I've been delighted, Michael. I can say nothing other than I've been absolutely delighted, even with the fact that we lost the game against Man U. I thought we still played very well. I think it's some of the best performances I've seen in a very long while.
Yeah.
We've had a couple of tricky fixtures. I don't care. They were getting all these critics. Obviously, they love to come out, these vultures. When we won the first 3 games. Yeah, but who have they faced? We faced 3 Premier League teams. That's what we faced. What would you want? What more would you want from us? Should we play 2 teams at the same time? Should we play 20 against 22 men? Is that what you want? I mean, goodness me. The attitude of when we were another thing that we've not seen. Actually, even in the Wenger years, I didn't think we were that quick. But some of the goals that we conceded, we were straight back within seconds.
Yeah.
Straight back.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest difference for me, because we were all worried that, okay, every game we've won so far, we've been ahead. What about when we go down? Well, we did go down in one game. And what did we do? We came back and got the points. So, I think there's a big change. I think it's coincided with the documentary well. So that gave us an insight as to what he was trying to achieve last season. And obviously that's going to overflow into this season. But with the additions of Jesus and Zinchenko, and I will say Saliba's a new signing, Michael. He is. I mean, yeah, right. We've had him 3 years or whatever it is, but he's a new signing, and they've all just taken it as if they've been there for years already. Jesus and Zinchenko, you can have expected it in a way because they've come from Man City. They know the rigors of the Premiership. But Saliba, not really so much. And then obviously what we saw with the debut of Vieira, he looks good.
Yeah.
There are good signs everywhere. And this Marquinhos, he's one for the future, 100%. Yeah. So with the congestion, etc., I can see all of our players being utilised. We've got Smith Rowe to come back. Don't forget. We've got Eddie Nketiah, who's been pressed, which I'm so happy for him. I know I'll admit I really did criticise him a hell of a lot, and I'm so glad I've got egg on my face, because now I want nothing but success for the boy. I really hope he carries on in this vein. I hope he gets goals. I hope he scores more than 12 this season. And that's the other thing. I can see goals from a lot of players, and not just ones and twos, but I can see at least 4 or 5 of our players getting double figures, and that is another thing we've lacked. Yeah. So aspirations for the season, going from the back of that, the attitude is impressed me. The mentality has impressed me. The way we play has been outstanding.
Yeah.
Some of the movement and the quick passes, and it's just been like watching liquid gold, Michael, at times, and that's what we want to see. Aspirations. I wanted top 4 at the start of the season. You're going to laugh. I think if we carry on like this, we're challenging, mate. I can see. I'm actually going to push us now to top 2.
Wow. Okay.
I'm pushing us to top 2 and a trophy to boot as well. And I think as much as I love the FA Cup, I've got such a love affair with that cup. That would be nice as well. But I think we need to win in Europe. Let's win that Euro. Let's get it. Yeah. Let's bag that Europa League Cup. Let's get it, and let's finish top 2. That's my aspirations.
Oh, nice. I mean, that would be lovely. That would be a dream. I mean, I personally would want a quad, but I don't want to steal your thunder.
Where do you get that from, Michael?
But I can get like echoing what you said. I think the style of football and the speed and everything and the tenacity that we've shown, it's been really, really like refreshing. You're off the edge of your seat, and we've been watching the matches over the last couple of years. You've been a lot at the Emirates, and fortunate to be there, and you've relayed back what you felt, and you was honest. It was just like football wasn't great to watch, and this season, you can't get a ticket. People are queuing on the box office to get Europa League group games, and they can't get a ticket, and it's crazy. So if that continues, I think you always take a look at the season after 10 games, and that's a snapshot that gives you, okay, if you started well, then you sort of, there's going to be injuries or whatever, but you started well, you've got that cushion. If you started poorly, which we have obviously in the past, okay, we're always trying to fight back, and we've always got to fight back. And obviously last season we know what happened. But for me, the only thing I was a bit concerned about was Arteta against United at Old Trafford. Obviously going back a couple of games, a lot of people talking about the way he dealt with the second half of the game when we looked like we were in ascendancy and looked like we were in control. And for me personally, I think he's still again, he's the youngest manager in the league. He's most inexperienced and what have you. He's still learning. But for me, it was like he got too emotionally involved in that game, right? Because he must have been on the touchline, right? Seeing the way you were dominating the game. He's got AirPod Albert with his iPad, and he's got his Carlos Guy with his iPad, looking at all the stats, saying, Jesus, look, we've got 70% possession, we've got X amount of shots on goal, this and that. We should be destroying this team. We should be absolutely destroying them. And he must be thinking, it's going to be a travesty if we don't come out of it with a win, or something. And he just basically threw all his chips in and he gambled and it didn't work. And I think he got too emotionally involved because we know what he's like. We've seen the documentary now. We know that he loves these guys and he wants the best out of them. And I think he got too emotionally involved in that game, against that team, that history and everything, and what it would have meant to go 6-6. And I think he got too emotionally involved and he gambled and it backfired. And I think that was the only worry, that he needs to sort of be analytical, more, colder in his. We sort of what's the word I'm looking for? We kind of said that about him before. But that's what he's like. He's too cold. But I think he needs to bring that back a little bit because yes, he loves the guys and
balance.
But yeah, balance. Like the Force.
Yeah. So we can talk about Star Wars here. Sorry, Jack.
Yeah. That's another show. But yeah. So I think that's the only concern about that. Because the performance, was unreal.
Yeah.
Against United. But yeah. I agree with you. If we can continue on that vein, I think we're going to have a very entertaining and successful season. I think that's going to be top four. We just got to see how Chelsea do with Potter and Liverpool as well. Liverpool still seem to be struggling tonight as well. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting season. But I just want to show you this, Neil. I think it's customary to do that on Arsenal Pods now. I'll just show that.
Oh yeah,
just so top of the league still. Despite all the shots we got, we've been top of the league for a couple of weeks.
Yeah. Good, isn't it?
It's almost like the invincible days again, when we just were always at top of the league. There's no point.
Yeah, it was boring, wasn't it? It's getting boring.
But anyway,
can I just say, just on the back of what you said very quickly before you wrap up, you made a really good point there about Arteta. I never thought of it like that, and I think the other way to look at it is, again, I'm just playing devil's advocate. It did seem really odd because although we conceded the second goal, we were actually still doing all right. There was no need to panic, but he pressed that button, panic button, if you like. But if it had worked, we would be having a very different discussion. It just didn't. It's just one of those things where the team became very. The balance was gone. I think players didn't know what the hell they were doing, and obviously that led to the third goal. But I think you're right. I think it's a bit of naivety, and I think because he's young, and you got to remember he has not been in the position where he's been on the back of 5 wins on the row. He's not had that yet, and I think it would really hurt him, as you said, to lose against them, against Man U. Yeah. And I thought, and he probably thought, you're right. We're actually controlling this game. There's no way we're walking out of here without 3 points.
Yeah.
And I think he probably still believes that I can do this crazy off the wall, make this change, and it would bring us a result. So you're right. I think he's got to learn from that, and I think he will. I will. Yeah. I don't think he'll make the same mistake again. Let's hope not, anyway. But it may not have been a mistake. It could have worked. Who knows? Yeah. Sometimes it's fine margins.
Yeah, I think with what's happened, obviously, the last couple of, I keep saying the last couple of weeks, but it's just been crazy how, this week, or what's happening this last week, it's not even a week. It's just seems like it's a month since the Queen passed. It's weird. But I think he would have had time to analyse it and reevaluate and everything. So, Sunday against Brentford is going to be really good.
I've just realised I'm looking at your thing. I didn't even notice that.
Oh, the number, that's new hotline, mate.
Yeah,
we just make sure that Crime Stoppers. We can have Arsenal.
Imagine if that's someone's real number, though.
Celebration Stoppers. No, I don't know. I might give it a call later.
God, I hope it doesn't be something naughty. Oh my God.
Oh, Neil, what are you doing? It's the first show, man. What are you chatting about? Anyway,
I'm joking. That's brilliant. That was brilliant. I just missed it. 1971, 2004, great years.
Yeah. We'll be back there soon, hopefully.
Yeah.
was there anything else that you wanted to talk about, Neil? Any shout outs? With your vast Arsenal connections that you have.
Oh no, don't get me started doing that. Look, I will do that in the future. Yeah, I'll pick out some names that I'd like to just mention, and just help, just because from an Arsenal fan's perspective, just helping me on the journey. But that's what we all are. We're one big family. The likes of yourself, meeting you, I would never have known you if it weren't for Twitter. And I like to think that we formed a really good friendship, and that means a hell of a lot. And then for you to ask me to come here on your first show, that I'm stoked, absolutely chuffed a bit. So the first shout out is to you, actually. I think you mentioned none of us would have met if it weren't for Jack and the purely Arsenal. So want to give him good credit and shout out as well. He's had some of his previous guests that he's had, people that were there. Kudos to them too. And I miss sometimes I miss all of that, but he runs a good show. So quick mention of them. But today the shout is for you, my man.
Oh,
and well done. And well done.
Yeah,
we've
got to meet up. We've got to have a meal. We've got to catch a game together. We've got all that stuff to do on our bucket list, man. I'm going to make sure get that ticked and get that all done. But no, thanks for joining me tonight. It's been a pleasure. And I'm honoured to have you on there. I hope you've enjoyed the show. There'll be more of this with more guests and Neil. I'm sure hopefully Neil will come back on. And just hopefully fingers crossed for Sunday that we can bounce back in the league and get a big 3 points. And hopefully we can get the fixture situation sorted out. So that's all from me. I've been Michael Harris, and he's been Neil Shah. And have a good week.
Like the two Ronnies.
Up the Gunners.
Come on.
You know who made it.